So this morning in our devotions, we have reached, well, actually, I just want to take a step back. I want you to imagine that we will reach the end of this lockdown, because we shall. And I want to imagine that you receive an invitation from Buckingham Palace to come to tea with the Queen. And you're absolutely thrilled. And you think, gosh, that's amazing. I don't know if any of you have ever been to one of the Buckingham Palace garden parties. I could have gone to one. I did everything I needed to pass my gold Duke of Edinburgh. But in the end, even though I didn't get it properly signed off, that meant I couldn't go to the garden party. I never got the invitation, but I was that close to going to to Buckingham Palace. Some of you have been, but you've received an invitation to come to tea with the Queen. And so you get there and you're all a quiver and you think, well, you know, I'm not sure what to do. Do I curtsy? No, I'm a boy. And then you get there and you are absolutely gobsmacked because you thought it would be like a big thing, and you're ushered into this room and there is a little round table with tea service on it and a plate of biscuits, royal biscuits, obviously. And it's just you and her. And she says, well, I'm not going to do a Queen impression because I just get that wrong. She says, oh, do sit down. Shall I be mother? And she pours you a cup of tea. And in this scenario, you're drinking tea. You don't ask for green tea. You don't ask for, oh, can I have a glass of hot water or, you know, a bit of lemon in it? No, it's tea. You're drinking tea. And you're thinking, oh, gosh, yes, Your Majesty, lovely, thank you. And you're thinking, I need to do something here. I should do something. And so you spot the plate of royal biscuits and you think, oh, I can offer her a biscuit. So you pick up the plate and you kind of proffer it to Her Majesty. And you say, Your Majesty, would you like a custard cream? And the Queen, who's enormously polite, says, well, one does. But she doesn't reach out to take one, and you're a little bit confused. And you're thinking, oh, I meant to pick up the custard cream and now give it to her. But then, mercifully, by inspiration in your head, comes the thought, maybe she prefers the other one. So you say, but Your Majesty, would you prefer a bourbon biscuit? And she smiles at you and picks one up and says, we do. And so there you had the confusion of our Queen, who can speak of herself both in the third person, one does, and in the very next breath can speak of herself in the plural with we do, the royal we. One does, we do. That's our Queen. She can have both. And the amazing thing is, so can we. So one of the genuine innovations, revelations that was brought to the human race through the teaching ministry of Jesus is that you, as an individual, can have a relationship with God. You don't have to be part of the covenant, which includes everyone in all the tribes of Israel who are kind of brought in together as a crowd. You, as an individual, can have a relationship with God. And that also is one of the kind of rediscovered revelations of the Reformation. People like Martin Luther and John Calvin were really talking about, look, the individual can be saved. The individual can have time by themselves in the throne room with the creator of the universe, who is loving them as an individual, knows the number of hairs on their head, knows everything about them. That is a genuine innovation. But it's also given rise to something of a sickness, particularly in the Western world. It's shaped the Western world. It's taken it on a path away from where most of the rest of humanity is, which is tribal, group, and it has made us the most individualistic group of people on the planet. And that has made us sick. And I would suggest to you, even looking at the impact that this sort of virus is having on the world population, I wonder if when we get to look back on this, I wonder if we're going to see it's the individualistic societies that had more trouble with this virus than those that were communitarian. Those that thought we first rather than I or me or one. And already, and now we're going to have to take the long view on this, but already the American outbreak of disease has overtaken the Chinese one in the number of people who've caught it and the number of people who died. And it's a tragedy, and it's still ramping up. And Europe is the other place where this thing is really being a problem. Now, it may be a problem in other parts of the world, in, say, African nations, simply for developmental reasons, but in the most advanced parts of the world, it is the individualistic societies that are most at risk. Okay, that's a very long introduction to what I wanted to take to you today about the book of Philippians. And in the book of Philippians, I want to take us to our scripture, which is here. So whatever happens, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Then whether I come to you and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel, and without being frightened. Without being frightened in any way by those who oppose you. This is a sign to them that they will be destroyed, but that you will be saved, and that by God. For it has been granted to you on behalf of Christ, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for him, since you're going through the same struggle you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Okay, this is another big sentence from Paul, but I've color-coded it a bit for us just to break it down. And you will see the yous, yourselves, you. Every single one of them is plural. In fact, most of the New Testament is written to the community of God's children, of God's people. This is massively important because in the individualistic society where we make ourselves sick, almost to the extent of isolation, and it is the health service's biggest problem before this particular crisis was social isolation. The number of older people who were living solitary lives and in that solitary life were becoming ill, not with, well, sometimes real illnesses, but also with just imagined things. Their only friend, the only sort of real person that they could go to was their GP. So the GPs are inundated with older people who actually were primarily lonely. And so the great answer to this has been, actually, we need a society, we need a community, we need a group of people that can resolve the issue of loneliness. And the churches across this nation have been doing that. And we have been transforming that, leading on that, because we are the people more than anyone who knows something about community in our nation in these days. But I would suggest that the church is still more, in this country, more individualistic than it is a community. And in this odd time where we're stuck in front of computer screens and more separated by people than we normally are, we have an opportunity to draw ourselves closer in community together, to reach out, to do that. You have permission to initiate conversation with other people that you haven't seen or that you don't know, because actually it is healthy. I was talking to my dad at the last weekend, and he said he quite often gets wrong numbers in that he can phone them now. And he phoned someone up and it was clearly a wrong number. And the chap at the other end of the phone said, oh, but do you mind if we chat? And so my dad said, okay, no, we can chat. And they had a similar era, similar age group, the pair of them. They found they had so much in common. And at the end of it, the chap said, I so enjoyed that conversation. Now, because they were British and because they were men, perhaps, they didn't exchange numbers, and that was it. It evaporated. It had gone. But there was something that in the randomness of a wrong number and in the conversation that ensued, that was good. That there was a small bit of community help. So you have permission to do that. So I've said that this is written to us, the we. We are the royal we in this, and not the individual one, though with that as well. But it isn't just about being together, it's what we do when we're together. And Paul writes on 3 things. It's standing firm in one spirit, that is us together in one spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel. And it's actually, that is, so we do it by the Spirit, and we're doing it in line with the gospel, which is about sacrificial love. And we can do that in this world without being frightened. And one of the big, I wrote the Surrey Mirror thought for the week this week. I don't think anyone will have bought it, but in there, I was talking about the contagion of fear and how actually the troubles which fear gives rise to are every bit as lethal as anything else that we might be dealing with at the moment, because fear isolates, fear drives a wedge between people. Fear actually, in the end, destroys and damages your mental health. And then the final bit that I just wanted to pick out, because I've got that in red, and this is the bit that we don't necessarily like, but it was a bit that was the reality for Paul and the reality to the Philippians that he was writing to. It's not just about a belief in God. It's not just even about a relationship with him. But actually part of our call, part of our walk, part of our experience is that we don't just suffer in and for and with ourselves and the things, but there's almost a call to be able to go through the suffering of life, whatever it happens, whatever it is, because it's as we do that as children of God together and work these things out together, that part of that witness that is so important to helping others see the reality of what it is that we're talking about. Part of that witness is seen in suffering for the kingdom, which is what wasn't the first thing which attracted people to Jesus, but actually in many ways has been the enduring thing and the thing which has benefited us, allowed us to come in to the benefits of the kingdom, was actually his suffering on our behalf. And there's some senses in which our suffering can help share that understanding of the kingdom if we do it with joy, without fear, and in love.